So there is. Let's continue on with infantry as we go into special, just because we may as well wrap it up, because there's one here that I forgot existed. Squires.
Yes.
Is there a point to squires?
Better at the moment.
Better, but more expensive, and in special.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's a point for squires.
So I'm a huge fan of cheap skirmishing infantry that can forward deploy with scouts. That is sort of like a niche that I think is worth running. When I've been playing around with dwarves, I've been taking rangers, even in rare, just a 60-point unit of 5 rangers with minimal upgrades. So there is something there. That's it here, I think. I don't know. They're a lot worse when you know that you're going second, because part of the strength of a skirmishing infantry unit is being able to deploy 12 inches away from an enemy unit, get that +1 to go first because you've put points into scouts, for example, and you've got lower drops. Turn 1, just march them forwards 8 or 10 inches and go, cool, you can charge me, but you're not going to like where you end up. And that's sort of the use case for them. So it's definitely something you can do with them here, and maybe you want to protect yourself because you're going second, or use them to set up some sort of defensive screens, but you could also just deploy your infantry, your cavalry an inch back and do that big 12 or 14 squad of peasant bowmen and do just exactly the same thing.
I don't think they gain enough. They're not even a better ballistic skill than a bowman. They do have longbows, just like peasant bowmen. They have no armor, just like peasant bowmen.
Yeah.
Their command is more expensive, I think. I think their champion's more expensive.
Hell yeah.
I mean, they come with Vanguard, which is nice. They've
leadership 7.
Skirmisher. Their leadership 7. Actually, I think peasant bowmen are leadership 7 because they don't have warbands. They don't get the extra from their ranks.
I'm having to double check that now because that's holy shit. Yeah. Peasant bowman leadership 7.
Yeah.
As brave as many of the things in
as brave as a knight, aren't
the highest leadership in the Skaven book, I think. Maybe it goes up to 8. Maybe I'm slightly exaggerating there, but that's fairly incredible. Cool. So another reason not to play squires.
I just think these guys don't really have a role when you can have skirmishing peasant bowmen.
Yeah, you could pay a lot of points and have a move through cover unit that scouts into a forward deployed wood and then fire and flees. And you'll kill 2 Chaos Warriors.
Maybe.
So that's No, I'm talking a big unit. Like you take a lot of them. I'm not super jazzed about this. You could you could. I'm a big fan of skirmishing units with demonology to fly around the board. You haven't even got a good reliable demonology caster to get that Steed of Shadows off. So I'm struggling. If there are any use cases that we're completely missing, please do let us know in the comments, because I'd love to see it.
Of them. So please let me know how I can use them effectively.
And let me know if there's any possible way. Perfect. So are there any other infantry units in the book? I think that might be it.
Battle Pilgrims.
Oh, yes, of course. Battle Pilgrims are... they're a special, or are they a rare?
They are special in the Grand Army, yes.
Fan-dabby-dozy. Alright, Battle Pilgrims and the Grail Reliquary, which is one of the coolest models, and typically, from my experience with Bretonnians, one of the just least relevant units on the tabletop. I don't think I've ever seen anyone play them, which is a shame because they look amazing.
Yeah, they feel like they should be filling a really good anchor sort of role, and they should be a really good anchor, but they're just not. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's they don't have enough of a save, or they're too low a weapon skill, or what it is, but they just don't really do the job you really want them to do. And they've you're definitely paying for rules which also don't really help them do that job, like Hatred.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really good rule, but on a weapon skill 2, strength 3, 1 attack model...
Movement 4.
It's not... A movement 4, it's really not that good. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of overlap with the Men-at-Arms or the Yeomen-at-Arms in this unit, because, sure, they don't have Unbreakable, but they have as close to Unbreakable as you can get with a combination of multiple rules. And this Sure, and again, the Yeoman, like, you're getting stuff from the triptych on the Grail Monk and from the Sergeant at Arms. But here you've just got a 3 wound, oh sorry, a 6 wound. To be fair, 6 wounds is actually quite tanky. You've got a 6 wound T3 model with a 5-up save, which is giving you unbreakable and immune to psychology. If I'm fighting against that, every attack I can put into it is going into that. And maybe I just kill it, and then you go, oh, my anvil just ran away. This is not ideal.
Yeah, you can target the Grail Relic, but the wounds are always taken from the Battle Pilgrims.
Oh, have I missed that? Okay.
Grail Relic is always the last thing, basically, to die.
Okay, that makes thematic sense. You kill one of the bearers, they pick it up.
And they just sort of jump in and prop it up, basically.
Okay.
Which is cool, but I think because they're not core, these are coming out of your Pegasus Knight points, which means
damn
you don't
Pegasus
have
Knights.
40 of them. Yeah, it means you don't have 40 of them, because 40 of them before the Grail Relic is double the cost of 40 men at arms, which do come out of your core.
Yeah, God, that is expensive.
And I appreciate 40 is a very big unit, but even if you were to take 25, 30, which is what you really would need for a good anvil unit.
Yeah.
That's
I wouldn't want to go lower than 30.
No, to be fair, you can't take 40 because the unit size is 5 to 30. So, so I mean, that helps keep the cost down, I suppose, but you don't want to go much smaller because they'll just die.
Yeah. And
they have very little save.
They've rolled in rule points into the unit and then also priced you at 65 points for the Grail Reliquary. That's a lot of points for this unit. As you say, hatred, woo, incredible. But I've got hand weapons, strength 3, no AP. This unit's crying out for, if you wanted to make it like really tanky, caster support. But also they're unbreakable, so you can't put a caster in there, which with the way that the laws of magic you have access to are worded, it's difficult to have a consistent save in the unit. Battle magic, you've got to be in the unit, but you can't be. Elementalism, if you're in combat already, I don't think you can cast. I'm pretty sure you've got to be Oaken Shield, you've got to be outside of combat to cast it onto them. I just don't see it. I really don't see it.
Like that sort of anchor block is definitely their role.
Yeah.
They just don't do it well enough for me to earn their place.
Yeah, that's a real shame. Let's quickly talk about the other unit of infantry that does exist, but only for exiles. This is the Border Prince's Brigands. This is 4 points per model, so great start there. Human stat line otherwise, move 4, 3s across the board, 1 wound. Leadership 6, 7 for a sergeant. That's a little bit different in this army. You don't typically get those. Come in squads of 10 plus, equipped with light armor and hand weapons. You can give them additional hand weapons for 2 points per model, plus 50% of your cost. You can get an extra strength 3 attack with no AP. Love it. Shields for 1 point is a consideration. Takes them up to a 5-up save. And then you can also have any model in this unit may take one of the following. What a weird wording. Oh, wait. They're Motley Crew. You just get to tool them up. If you like doing it for ogres and spending 70 points per model, you can do it here and spend 6 points per model, which is way better. So realistically, you're probably taking these for the blunderbuss. I don't know if you do that. I've played against them and I've been whelmed. They were an aggressively okay unit. And I think realistically, if you could take a brace of pistols, I think I'd be really interested in that. But a single pistol is fine. A crossbow is fine, but you're up to 7 points. At that point, just take the 5 point per model peasant bowmen. They're not as good, but they're 2 points cheaper, so sure.
And core.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can take blunderbuss, which are an interesting weapon that screams at me to be broken, and I don't know how to do it. So they've got... It's 12-inch range, so immediately this is a difficult unit to use. Strength 3 AP1, so that's fine en masse. It's not amazing. Multiple shots D3, that's exciting. That's a hell of a roller coaster ride, and also it's going to add an extra 10 minutes to each of my shooting phases while I roll 30 D3s and go, right, hold on, okay, so I've got... little tip for anyone who is actually rolling lots of D3s, just group them up, so you take all of your 3s, all of your 1s, count the difference between them, and just go, okay, so I've got 3 more 3s than I've got 1s, sweet, I've got plus 3 shots on whatever my expectation is there. Because if you just double the shots, because 2 is the average, roll 10, I've got 5 2s, 2 1s, 3 3s, great, I've got 21 shots. Nice, easy bit of maths there.
Nice.
But this is the old world, so you'll probably never have to use that bit of maths because we're not playing 40k and you don't have to roll a load of dice. So yeah, you've just got guys with blunderbuss, and also no negative modifiers for firing at long range, using multiple shots, or stand and shoot. That makes it quite an exciting unit. You can take these if you're running Chaos Dwarves, but they're way more expensive. They're 8 points per model here if you want to go for the blunderbuss. And they also have volley fire, so theoretically you get to get lots of shots in, but you can't volley fire if you're standing and shooting. So I guess here I probably want to trade off, get rid of the open order for skirmishes for free, and then pay a point a model to give them scouts. That's
I'd definitely go scouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably do the same as well. Go skirmishers. I probably don't want a massive unit. Maybe like 14, 16, that sort of number.
Yeah.
Just because then even as skirmishers, you just end up getting in your own way. With the sort of second, rank almost. Because you're not going to want to be 14 wide with an inch gap in between all of your models. You're going to take up. Well, I mean, there's possibly some cases where you do want to be that wide, but
as someone who plays a lot of skirmishes that want to shoot right now, there's a nice formation where you just go in sort of like a diagonal checker pattern, and it basically means that for 2 models you're 3 centimeters wide. So you just you add like a centimeter onto the width of the base in terms of how they'd be. So it's not too limiting, but you're right. You don't want to go too high unless, for example, you go for an outcast wizard. You're like, I'm going to steal a shadow these around in a way less effective version of the Gutter Runner Star.
I definitely see these as more of they're a shooting unit, not a combat unit. So I'd never bother with the additional hand weapon. I possibly would the shield, but I think that had come after I've added in, I've basically made the rest of the list. It's do I have 15, 20 points, however many guys I've got spare? Yeah, okay, I'll give them shields. It's not going to be I need to have these with shields and a blunderbuss or pistol. It's blunderbuss or don't take them, to be honest. I think if you're taking them for the crossbow, like you say, take a peasant bowman.
Yeah.
And one pistol isn't enough.
Does a pistol count as an additional hand weapon, or do you have to have the brace of pistols to get the additional hand weapon?
The brace.
Oh, because I could see some motley pirates with pistols and hand weapons and be like, that's a thing I could do. Not like super excited to do it, but it's an option there. But I think you're absolutely right. It is just blunderbuss. Here's the question: ambushes. This is the first unit I've seen where I go, you know what? Maybe I pay for ambushes. It is expensive. You're going up to 10 points per model. So, realistically...
would I? I probably wouldn't. And I'd probably just rely on the scout. I'd probably save a point and know that they're going to be there from, turn 1.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is, because the only penalty you'll take is the move and shoot penalty, so you could theoretically work out how many it takes on average to kill a war machine, which will be wounding on 6s, hitting on 5s. So that's what? 6... Oh, you're back. Yeah. So you'd go, 9... 27 shots to kill on average? That's quite a lot of them, actually. You're talking 14 to 15.
Yeah.
That's a lot of points. Yeah. Alright, I've talked myself out of it. I don't want a unit that unreliably comes on at some point, turns 2 through 4, and then maybe kills a war machine if I...
3 win.
3 wins, so you're winning on 6s, so that's 1 in 6. You're hitting on 5s, that's 1 in 9. Yeah. You need 3 of those, so 1 in 27. So theoretically you need, on average, 14 models, average 28 shots. But this is a unit that is so ruined by the risk of just rowing low and then doing absolutely nothing. I think an ambushing unit is not an ambush, a scouting unit with some blunderbuss is interesting, and it fills a role in the army that other things that you have don't. So that's cool.
Yeah. I think they are just rare though, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you could
that's a shame.
take 2 trebuchets, 2 bombards, and then like 11 or 12 of these with scouts and
Yeah,
blunderbuss. It's probably
yeah. It's not a bad option for them,
yeah. It's
but
truly one of
you
the
are really
options that you can
maxing out
take.
your rare points.
Yes, yeah, without taking Grail Knights. Not that you can in
Yeah,
Exiles, but
no.
just as a reminder. But I
Mm.
think we've successfully talked about all of the boring units, the foot units, and now we can get on to the stuff that we actually wanted to talk about. Psych! It's questing knights. Again, some of the best models in the game. I remember
Oh,
these things
absolutely
growing up.
lovely. Yeah.
Incredible. I'm so glad I didn't have the disposable income to buy them because I'd have been so sad. So this is heavy cavalry with strength
Yeah,
4. Strength 4, great. Okay, this is a real
yeah,
step up from what we've got in our core, and they come with great weapons. Talk me through this.
yeah, yeah. They are also weapon skill 5, which for a
That's
unit
nice.
is very nice.
Mm,
But yeah, like you say, great weapons. Initiative 4 as well. They get like an extra pip of initiative and then lose it all because of the great
yeah,
weapons.
just doesn't
Real
matter.
shame. What I think would have made this unit significantly better is if Bretonnians had a rule like Gromra weapons or I'm trying to think of the chaos equivalent. The ones that give like
And
basic
sorcerer
hand weapons,
weapons.
AP weapons, that's it, and sorcerer
Yeah.
weapons that give like basic weapons a buff,
Okay.
whether that's AP or an extra strength or something. Because then I think you just use their hand weapon, and you go, I'm initiative 7 on the charge. I've got a 3-up save like every other night. I'm strength 4 with maybe -1 AP or whatever the buff for that weapon was at
Yeah.
weapon skill 5. I think, and then you can go, okay, well actually if I've got my great weapons, I'm charging into the flank, say, so I'm going to go before whatever's attacking me. I'll then use my great weapons, and it
Sure.
gives you that choice. Whereas now, I think you've just got to accept the fact you are at best going at the same time with the great weapons, and at worst dying before you get to attack.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. You can take a knightly virtue on the champion,
Yes,
which I
which is
think is
nice.
almost never worth doing because it only
No,
buffs the sergeant instead of the squad.
often, yeah. There's a couple. There's
Yeah,
one which I take on my Ground Knight champion, which I'll talk about when we get to Ground Knights. But
yeah,
yeah, there's not many that affect the whole unit or that you would want to really have on the unit.
yeah. That's fair. 100 points for a magic standard. That's the first thing that I see in here, and I go, actually, maybe there is something.
Mm.
If only there was another unit of foot knights with good weapon skill and maybe more attacks that could get more benefit out of those. Don't know what that is. Never mind. Maybe there's a couple of units actually that could benefit from it. So, scale of 1 to 5, questing knights. How do you feel about them?
Solid 3, I'd say.
That's
They're
higher than I'd
very,
go.
yeah. I think if you get them into a flank of like
Yeah,
a monster or something, they have a role.
yeah,
But it's just very hard to really get the most out of that role.
yeah. I think for me 2. They're not like the baseline. They're not awful.
Yeah,
I hate that you've got a 4-up save if you want to use the weapon. That is the whole point. You're taking them. You lose
yeah,
your initiative. But yeah, like you say, weapon skill 5 is nice. 26 points is pretty cheap. Compared it to a Knight to the Realm, which is
yeah. It's
2
not
points,
bad. Mm.
2 points cheaper. Although I think Knights of the Realm are paying a little bit of core tax because
Yeah,
since you can take them in core, they're a little bit more expensive. But still, yeah, they're there. Let's move on to maybe another unit that you might take. Hold on, let's go Pegasus Knights. There we go. We've mentioned them about someone. I should put a tracker on the screen. Again, I'm not going to do it because this will be 2.5 hours. But we're probably up to like 25 odd
yeah,
mentions of Pegasus Knights.
yeah.
Oh god,
These
these
are
things.
top tier,
Yeah,
absolute top tier unit in the army. Their stats are solid. There's nothing that really stands out and goes, "Oh, that's an amazing stat." Weapon skill 4 is good. The toughness 4 is very nice.
I'd
Strength
argue that's
4
an
very
amazing
nice.
stat in this army.
They do only have 2 wounds though. For monstrous cav, that's not as
That's
many
true.
as you'd necessarily be expecting.
Thank
And
God.
55 points. Yeah, 55 points. They're not super cheap
Yeah.
for what they are, but they are worth every single point of that 55. Like,
Yes,
I
they
don't
are.
think you could argue that they are too expensive at all.
No.
Um, yeah, they're mad. 50 points of magic banner, which is
Yep. Enough.
really good. Yeah, it's more than enough really for what you want to put on them. The only thing I think they not missing out on, but would have been nice to have, is if the champion could take some magic items. Because effectively they're Knights of the Realm that are on Pegasus, so it'd been nice if
Well,
their champion could take some stuff.
I don't know about that. That strength 4 is a pretty nice jump.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
let's just list off the ludicrous number of special rules they have. Blessing of the Lady. Okay, you get these if you're playing Bretonnia. Cool, that's fine.
Yeah.
Countercharge, fantastic. Love to see it on a knight unit.
Yeah.
Disperse formation just means that you can physically place them on the table without breaking rules. That's okay.
Yeah.
First charge, okay. Now I'm interested.
Yep.
Turning off that rank bonus because you're going to be hitting something hard. Fly 10. It's pretty good. Also comes with move 7, just in case you're playing against someone else who can turn off fly. Those bastards. Furious charge. Why is this rule on here? That's that's not okay. What this means is, instead of just having a mobile unit that can 360-degree charge, has an incredible like 19-inch charge range. Also, you've got 2 wounds. You're just 2 knights strapped together that also fly. You've got 2 wounds. You've got 2 attacks, and you've got T4. So by Bretonnian standards, you're actually underpaying for defenses. It's
yeah.
Lance formation as well. Good luck ranking them up. Skirmishes, unbelievably good on a flying unit with Swift Stride, and then Swift Stride and the Knight's Vow. That's a lot of rules in there. I like the one that says skirmish. I like having a 360-degree line of sight. That is pretty okay.
Yeah. Even with the latest FAQ from GW about the whole possibly losing models to if you can't reach combat and things, I don't think that's a huge issue for these guys, because they've got fly 10, which is, I think, the fastest fly you can get outside of like spells and buffs and things. It's the sort of fastest standard fly that anything has.
Yeah, I think so. I was just thinking, is there maybe like an elf like flyer that goes like 11 inches or something? Maybe someone check the flying chariot. Maybe that goes faster.
Maybe.
But no, I think you're probably correct.
Yeah, I think, and particularly when you're doing the charging, I think it's very unlikely that you end up not being able to reach and losing models. It's only really if you get charged.
And then you've got move 10.
And then you've got move 10. So as long as you're not in like a massive long line, you're probably fine.
Yeah, that's the one thing it shuts down. The sort of like semi-abusive, I'm just going to have a unit with 5 Pegasus Knights, 2 or 3 characters. I'm going to string out as far as I can go. Oh, hey, I can get the charge on whoever I want and then just snap into place. It's the only thing it sort of shuts down.
Yeah, which I think is absolutely fair enough. And yeah, the banners that the 50-point allowance gives them access to, there's a couple of absolute standouts. The Vanguard banner is obviously the top one in the Exiles list. For me, what I always run them with is the Banner of Honourable Warfare, which gives them hatred against any unit with missile weapons. So that really helps them out for me because, they've got, a decent amount of attacks because I just run them as a unit of 3. So they've often got sort of 6-7 attacks from the unit itself, 6 from the Pegasus. Giving them all hatred against, some archers or some handgunners if I'm playing Empire, or some Iron Drakes if I'm playing some Dwarves, which, often you're going to find 2 or 3 ranged units in most armies. So you're probably, and because of your speed and your maneuverability, you're going to be able to pick those fights and hopefully get the most out of them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really like the, is it Banner of Shalons? I think the hatred against ranged attacks. It's either that or that's the move through cover one. 20-point magic banner that gives you hatred against ranged attacks. I really like that on a unit of 3, as you say. And I think if I'm writing a competitive Bretonnian list, even if I'm outside of playing the Exiles list, I'm probably going with like a unit of 3 and then a unit that's a little bit bigger, 4 or 5, probably putting a character or 2 in there, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think having 2 of those units, sort of probably 1 on each flank, just to sort of really control where your opponent goes as well. I think that's a big benefit to them, giving you that ball control.
Yeah, and they are stupid cheap as well for a unit. That's 165 points
Yeah,
before upgrades.
yeah,
And again, like, as I mentioned, I'm probably only taking a musician unless I want to put a magic banner on there. If I want
yeah.
to attach characters to a unit, I'll put the sergeant in, so I have the
Hmm.
flexibility to, accept a challenge with the sergeant. But other than
Yeah,
that, it's, you can run 3 units of 3 for what, less than 500 points. That's
yeah,
wild. It's
yeah, yeah. Very easy to do.
yeah, that's what you can do. It's very solid. I like that, and I think the real question comes in. It's not are you running Pegasus Knights. It's how many are you running. That's the
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
they are squishy for their points in terms of what you can put on the board if you want to put more dense stuff in. So if you go too heavily into Pegasus Knights, there is a risk that, especially if you're going for the full like near 1,000 points in your characters, you do risk being shot off the board quite quickly. So that is, I
Yeah,
think, the downside to Pegasus Knights. But
yeah, yeah. I think you can. There's definitely the risk of going too heavy into them, and like you say, just ending up with nothing else really. Just characters, core, and Pegasus Knights. But
what a
I
dream!
think, yeah, to be honest, I think even then, if you play, half decently enough, and if you come up against not someone with, tons of artillery and tons of shooting, you'll probably still get away with it, and they'll absolutely do the business for you.
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? It's not that it's a worse list if you go too heavy into the
Mm.
Pegasus Knights. It's just harder to play. In fact, it
Yeah,
might be better. You've just got to make less mistakes and position better.
yeah, yeah.
What a difficult choice. How well do I want to have to play to really get the most out of this unit? Cool. Yeah. So I mean, questing Pegasus Knights.
Not
And
questing knights. These
no,
guys, not questing
yeah,
knights.
yeah. These are the ones that you'll see on the tabletop. Really
Yes.
nice models as well. Even though they're old, I still
Yeah,
really like the Peg Knights.
yeah,
Really solid.
yeah. They're solid. I've got like 15 of them somewhere, but I've only got 3 painted, which is why I've only
Right.
ever used 3.
Yeah. It's that's fair. That's fair. You should get the rest of them painted up by the end of the month for that event that you're going to.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, that
So
might be a bit of a stretch.
just paint faster. It's fine. I think we're down to one more ranged unit, as far as I can tell, which is the Grail Knights. I don't think there's anything else that we've missed there. This is a really, really good unit that I don't see on the tabletop very much.
You see, that's strange because I always take a unit of 6 of these guys.
Yeah.
They are about 250 points with full command.
Yeah.
They're inevitably more than that because the champion carries the Horn of No Flying.
Sure.
So they're 290 points for me. But no, I really like these guys. You've got the strength 4. You've got weapon skill 6 on a unit, which is really good. Initiative 5, which is means you're basically going before anything when you charge it, unless it's an elf with strikes first. The toughness 4 is very nice. The only thing that really lets them down is that they are quite expensive for 1 wound with a 3-up save.
With a 3-up save, yeah.
Yeah. You can take a virtue on the champion, on the guardian, which I don't do always, but if I do, it's just a super cheap one, which is, I think it's discipline. It means you can always march. You don't have to test to march if you're within 8.
Sure.
So it's really helpful with the sort of combo with the Falcon Horn, because it means you can go, right, that dragon I know is not going to be able to fly, that's, flown right up in front of me. And then now I don't have to worry about testing to march and failing of getting out of its front arc. I can just sort of zip 16 inches away. And it's like 5 points, the virtue. So it's really not a lot. But it's definitely just something, I've got 5 points spare, I'm going to put this on, rather than they need this virtue.
Yeah.
You can go sort of the other way with the Grail Guardian and make it super expensive with, a really tasty magic weapon, Virtue of Knightly Temper, or Killing Blow if you don't get the magic weapon. But I think that's a trap, to be honest. I think you're wasting, in inverted commas, one of your really good virtues on a model that doesn't fly and has only got 3 attacks.
Yeah, I could see Knightly Temper and the 30-point axe in the Exiles. Oh, you can't even take them in Exiles.
No, you can't take them. No.
That's about the one time I was like, oh, I can see a combo here for them. I think they're really solid. I think they're overshadowed by Pegasus Knights. For 6 of them, you could take 4 Peg Knights.
Yeah.
It's difficult for me to get excited about them But I think if they had a 2-up save, I'd be a little bit more
Yeah.
willing to jump on. But they're so expensive for 1 wound with a 3-up save, as you're saying.
Yeah, then really that is their downfall. It is just sort of bow fire, basically, just weight of bow fire, because you are going to roll 1s and 2s,
Yeah.
and then because of that bow fire is going to be strength 3. You've only got a 6-up ward. So
the few times I've played against Grail Knights, they haven't made it into combat. I've just killed them before they got there.
Yeah.
And I do like playing sort of faster armies with decent shooting, so that does skew into it a little bit. But they or fanatics. God, fanatics will love a unit of Grail Knights.
Grail Knights do not like Night Goblins at all, because they inevitably come with fanatics or Mangler Squigs who just random move into you and munch you on the charge.
Yeah.
Which
heard you had
counter
charge. Sucks to be you.
They are living saints, so they can all issue and accept challenges like their characters, which is
really nice if you've got the Falcon Horn on one of them. You don't want to just lose it.
Yeah, exactly. Someone thinks, I'll go in, I'll challenge that champion, kill him straight away. I've got 5 ablative wounds.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. They're immune psychology from Gravel as well, but it means they can never refuse a challenge. So you do have to accept with someone.
Can never flee as well.
And can never flee. Yeah.
I personally, the way I like to play, that is a huge downside. I like fighting on my own terms, and sometimes that does mean running away. A tactical advance in the other direction, as I prefer to call it. But I don't think they're bad. I struggle to justify putting them in my list when Pegasus Knights are so efficient. I think that's where I go down them, basically.
Yeah.
I
do think if you don't have any Peg Knights, or if you've only got 3 or 4, I don't think instead of the second unit of Pegasus Knights, you having a unit of Grail Knights is necessarily a bad choice.
I
don't think you're going to have a noticeably less powerful list or less effective list because you've gone with a unit of Grail Knights instead of a second unit of Pegasus, for instance.
Yeah. You know what? I could see them as a replacement for a second beta character. Because sure, they're not going to be on a Pegasus, which is a downgrade in terms of getting where you need them to be, but they hit really hard. That's that frontage of 6. You've got in a lance, there's 5 of them are going to attack. I think that's correct. Honestly, I might be tempted just to run them 6 wide, because that's not super wide, and you'll get those extra attacks in. You're looking at 13 attacks, because you may as well take a sergeant. You're going to have to be challenged anyway. So 13 attacks, almost certainly hitting on 3s. Strength 6. So if you're going into something that's typically T4 is pretty common across the board, getting that AP2, you can do a lot of damage with them, and a good vessel for magic items and magic banners. So I could maybe see if you didn't want to go for a second character. Like beta character, I could see them being quite a tasty choice there.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that initiative 5 as well, even if they're getting countered, they're doing the counter charging, they're getting charged and they're doing the counter charging, you're often going first.
Yeah.
Even if other cavalry is charging you.
Most
cavalry is 3 or 4 anyway. So.
They're a lot less. You're a lot more comfortable accepting the counter charge with the Grail Knights, I think, because it doesn't matter if you roll a 1 on the D3. Because you're not leaning on Furious Charge the way the Pegasus Knights are. So in that way, they're a more reliable. Like I think we're seeing a lot of shooting at the moment. If we lean back into a more melee-based game and maybe less dragons flying around, having something that can just stand there and go, either I'm charging you next turn or you're charging me, but I'm going to counter charge and I'm going to hit you at a minimum of initiative 7. Too bad, so sad. Sucks to suck. I'm going to cleave through some models. Maybe that's the place for them.
But I'm a big fan of these guys. I will, maybe when I've got more Pegasus Knights, I'll start dropping them now and again, but I don't think I'll ever drop them full time from the list. I just love them so much.
Yeah. So do you find they do like a lot of work as sort of a hammer unit? Is that the role that you've got them for?
Yeah. I sort of often I just end up sort of on a flank on their own. And they just work through unit after unit. Like I'll generally go quite a sort of denied flank deployment with my Bretonnians. So I'll have 2 lances plus the Pegasus Knights plus a 1 or 2 units of peasants with the characters flying around. And I'll have my Knights of the Realm sort of normally over to one side, and then the Grail Knights are probably in the centre of the board. But that's like the flank of my army, because it's all deployed on one side of them. And because they are, quite fast for cavalry, they're not suffering that sort of drop of movement that most cavalry do when they're barded. They've got, and I normally run them in lance formation. They're quite narrow, so they can fit through gaps. They can wheel quite quickly. I have them on one side, the Pegasus Knights often on the other, and they just sort of wrap, smaller units up to then come into what is often 1 or 2 bigger units, more threatening combat units in the centre that the Knights of the Realm are then going into at that point. And they just sort of all try and hit things at the same time and get that like combined charge and overruns into other units and have one really devastating turn. Where, if you can get the Grail Knights or the Knights of the Realm to fight twice, or the Pegasus Knights even, any one of them to fight twice, you've had a really good turn that has probably, 60-70% of the time would have just won you the game on its own.
Sure. So I guess now is a good time, and by a good time I mean a terrible time. I should have asked this right at the start. What's the play style of Bretonnians? Because the way you've been talking about it makes it sound like it's less of a combat army and more of a combo army, where you're looking to get the right combination of charges off, like really pressure and shut down your opponent, as opposed to just being like full send it forwards and just charge turn 1 with everything.
Yeah, I think I certainly started playing Bretonnians in Old World in that just sort of full send. I've got first charge, I've got all my lance bonuses, I'm just going to go into you and I'll come out the other side and it'll be great. Sometimes that works, and it works really well, and you just blitz through units. Other times, you get stuck, and it just takes one turn. One bad combat phase, and, they only give ground, and that's it. If they've given ground, you may as well have lost the combat, because that is probably a dead knight unit. Because they're certainly never getting out of that combat. They might not die if it's, whatever they're fighting's got no AP.
Questing Knights. That's where they come in.
That's where Questing Knights are good in the grind, but you need so many of them, they just become way too expensive. Yeah. But if you've got those sort of combos and those flanking units coming round, you can accept a turn where the enemy just gives ground, because next turn you're going to flank charge them with Pegasus Knights, or with Grail Knights, or with a Duke or a Baron on a Pegasus, or the Green Knight, something to give you that charge bonus again, to give you that bit of extra hit, to then get your Knights out of that sort of grind that they've found themselves in. So it really is all about the combos, mainly around combo charges, I would say, rather than necessarily spells or items so much. You can certainly build items and virtues up to help with static combat res, to help with, that output in the grind. You can build reasonable paladins, which are quite cheap, that just give you pretty consistent strength and half decent AP just all the time for a reasonable cost. Just like a Sword of Might isn't bad on them. Makes them strength 5, AP 1, solid couple of attacks. When your other knights are, strength 3, no AP. Just that extra little pip often helps. But I do think they're at their best when you can get those combo charges to work. Particularly if they go in at the same time. So you go in, like, say, the front with the Knights of the Realm, the flank with the Grail Knights, and then you flank charge something else on the other side with Pegasus Knights, or something behind them with Pegasus Knights. And then you go, right, I win the combat with the Knights of the Realm and the Grail Knights. Then one of those units is going to overrun into the second unit and then fight with the Pegasus Knights to then do the same to that unit. And it can just really swing the board state massively, very quickly. And it does catch some people off guard. They don't see the overruns if they're not right next to each other, these units. Some people just don't see the overruns, and or particularly if you're overrunning with Pegasus Knights, because it's often a much longer sort of distance between units because they've had to fly around. It can catch people off guard, which also helps get you into the sort of position where I think the key thing is you can't let them dictate the game. You as the Bretonnian player have to dictate what charges you're going to do and when. And it might sound easy because, like you say, Bretonnians are very good at sitting off and charging when they want to charge. But your opponent can still hem you in because if you've got particularly units like dwarves, which have a lot of shield wall, have a lot of stubborn in their armies, but any unit really that has a sort of rule or some interaction that lets them not necessarily break as often as they should, any unit like that can really hem you in from 15, 16 inches away. Because, yeah, they can't charge you, but they also know you don't want to charge them on your own. And it is often a game of cat and mouse where you might have to sacrifice a unit of peasants or a small unit of knights errant or knights of the realm and just go, I'm going to give you this unit because you're overrun or because where you're going to be after you charge is going to mean that I can charge you with 2 units and wipe your unit out. So, but you've got to be really careful with those trades because your models are really expensive and you don't have many of them.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. All right, cool. So let's move on. We've only got 2 units left to talk about, and that is the war machines. I know that's what you think of when you think of a full-mounted army. It's I want to have big war machines. I think, actually, both of the options are incredibly good and surprisingly cheap as well. So the first off, Field Trebuchet. It is a stone thrower. It has good rules in that it's T7 with 3 wounds and a no save. That's fine, the save bit doesn't matter, but T7's quite nice. Some war machines dip below that. It's a classic stone thrower, but it's strength 10 in its central hull instead of the usual strength 8, and it's AP 4 in the central hull as well. Still got the D3 plus 1 damage and can shoot out a line of sight if needs to. This is just, I think, the best version of a stone thrower outside of a Doom Diver in the game.
Yeah, and I'd argue it's maybe, I don't know if it's better than a Doom Diver. I don't know if you could argue that. But
it's comparable. They're both better in certain ways. This is less accurate, but when it hits, it's going to be more likely to do the damage.
Yeah, and it's the strength 5 AP1 on the blast for me that really sets this above other stone throwers. Because often stone throwers just do all their damage to that thing under the hull, and then the rest of it's like strength 3. I don't know actually if generically stone throwers are AP1
strength 4 AP0, I think, is the normal.
So that extra pip of strength and the AP actually means if you do, often roll those 4+ and actually hit the stuff that's half under your template, you can kill lots of models in a unit very quickly.
I've had a Death Star flee off the board because I got hit by 2 trebuchets and panicked and fled. I had a BSB in that unit. Obviously, that's not super, that's not super likely to happen. But if anyone's bringing actual ranked up infantry, or even, especially knights on 25mm bases, because the way that a 3-inch template works is if you're on a 25 wide base, you have the central hole is always a hit, and then you've got one above, one on each corner, which is just a direct hit in a 25 square. But then you also just tag the models out there. So you get 5 direct hits, one of which is the square, and then you get, I think, is it 8 partials as well? So you hit a surprising amount of infantry. It's a lot of models.
Yeah, even 30mm, you're still likely to hit probably 6 or so models after you've rolled the 4+. And if you can land 2 trebuchets on the same unit, it can be devastating. And they're also really good at monsters because of that D3 plus 1 multiple wounds under the hull, and the -4, so they're cutting through most, if not all, of everything safe.
The best you can have against it is a 6.
They're also quite good for like other knight units. I mean, particularly if you're playing Bretonnians and they're in the lance formation, because you'll hit quite a few because they're in that weird triangle. But even knights in like a line, if you do get a direct hit or you scatter sort of directly along the unit, you can probably take out half of the unit of knights because you're probably going to hit 4 with a couple of partials. So you get like 2 direct hits or 2 automatic hits or 3 automatic hits and like 2 partials on a even a 30mm wide basis. So, you can take out 2 or 3 of those knights. Suddenly they've only got maybe 4 left. And that makes a big difference if you're charging 6 Knights of the Realm into them. That they suddenly don't get 2 or 3 extra attacks. I do like them. I went off them at the start of the edition, start of the game for quite a while, but I have very recently come back to them and am planning on taking 2 of them to that event at the end of the month.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I like these. I think it's a good plan to have things to threaten enemy dragons, basically. And stone throwers are probably the best thing in the game at doing that. Yes, they're less accurate than cannons. They are more likely to do damage, and they can't hide from you turn one. Sure, you're more likely to scatter off and not hit something,
Yeah.
but there's still the option there, so you've got that pressure turn one. You make your opponent have to make more aggressive moves with their dragon, which a lot of the strength comes from, having that big zone of control where they're like, if you come towards me, I'm going to charge you, so I'm going to kill you with the rest of my army. I really like these. It does have a downside, unfortunately. It's an immovable object. You're not able to move this. What a shame.
Oh no.
Man,
I'm devastated.
War Machine
Makes it untakeable.
I started it in either a hill, on a hill, or in a wood, and now I'm not going to be able to check notes, leave the advantageous position. Bummer. What a real shame. You still get a pivot, and you still don't need to because you're a skirmisher. The weirdest rule with War Machines, if you didn't know, they have 360-degree line of sight. So,
but it specifically says in their rule they can pivot in the shooting phase to face their target.
Yeah, because when they wrote the rules, they forgot that skirmishers could shoot.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. It means that you can thematically face things, which I like.
Yeah, that is nice. It makes it look a bit better. But speaking of skirmishers, I think these are actually quite good against skirmishers in a Bretonnian army, because skirmishers can be an absolute pain for you to catch, because you're generally all cavalry. If you're going lance formation, you've got quite narrow front arcs, so skirmishers can get out of your arc quite easily. These guys, particularly in an army that's heavy on skirmishers, so like wood elves, for instance, you just place it, roughly in the middle on their unit that's in the middle of their army, and whatever way you scatter, you've got a decent chance of hitting something. It might not be what you're aiming at, but you've got a half decent chance of hitting something. Which, when you're facing that sort of army as Bretonnians, you can think, I've got like 4 units on the board. They've got 9 that are all skirmishers, and they're all really quick. How am I going to catch them?
Yeah.
I think the trebuchet or 2 is a very good way of doing that.
That's a fair point. I hadn't thought about it in that sort of terms. But a fairly versatile unit then. I really like them. 100 points. A little expensive on the stone thrower side of things.
You're definitely paying for that increase in strength.
Yeah, but I think worth every penny. So we've got the Border Prince Bombard, and the Bombard, you might think, what is that? Is that some sort of mortar? No, it's a cannon. It's a cannon with a silly name. And then now I'm going to get the history buffs going. Actually, a Bombard's a type of cannon. I know that. It's still a silly name. So you're paying, again, a flat 100 points. This makes everything really easy to work out. What am I spending my rare points on? 400 points of artillery. Sweet. Or, more reasonably, you can just go, I've got 2 trebuchets, I want to swap them out for 2 cannons for this game. I don't have to tweak the rest of the list, which I think is quite nice. So we're looking at, again, T7 3 up, T7 3 wounds. That's aggressively fine. They've got a 6-up save, which is nice. Weirdly, that actually matters on War Machines sometimes. And you just get really sad. You're like, didn't kill it. Now I'm just going to be tied up. That's such a pain. I'm not into their next War Machine, which is positioned right next to it. That's happened to me multiple times. So we've got, again, it's a cannon. It's a 48-inch range cannon. I think normal cannons are 60 inches, I believe, off the top of my head. Realistically, it doesn't make much difference by the time you do because you still have to declare back. If you're shooting at a large target, you typically declare 10 inches from the back of the base. So that gives you an effective range of what, like 53 inches or something, with the size of a behemoth's base.
Sort of monstrous base,
That's most of the board.
I think regular cannons are 48. I think great cannons are 60.
Right. I'm only thinking of the only ones that I've seen all edition. That makes sense. But so they've got comparable rules. They're strength 8, which is normal for a cannon. Empire cannons are strength 10, but a lot of the time that doesn't matter. It's only if you're looking into like some T7 spam, which is achievable but not always good. AP3 is very good for a cannon.
Not that common.
No, it's very hard to get to. AP3, which is a normal cannon's AP2, and then Armor Bane 2, so flipped from a normal cannon, which is AP2, Armor Bane 3. Really nice. And then D3 plus 1 wounds, which is the sort of big break point for me for artillery. I really like the D3 plus 1.
D3 baked in, and then the Armor Bane 2 on top is a much better way round of having it.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Because you can't just roll a 6 every time. If you roll a 6, it's the same, but you're not going to
Yeah,
do that every single
yeah,
time.
exactly.
Bombard misfire table. This one's funny. One, it's destroyed. Cool. That's like the black powder misfire table.
Standard.
Why do they
Yeah,
give it a separate misfire table? I don't know, but I'm not complaining because it's way better. 2 to 3, you can't shoot this turn, and you lose a wound. Okay, cool.
yeah,
That's fine. I
yeah.
get to shoot next turn. Sweet. 4 to 5, it can't shoot this turn. All right, cool.
Okay.
So none of that. I can't shoot for 2 turns. Weird,
Yeah,
but all right. 6, you shoot as if you rolled a 2 on the artillery dice instead of a misfire. Then you can't shoot next round. Amazing. You just get to
yeah.
shoot still. Like,
Yeah,
that's
I don't know
wild.
what they were thinking with this misfire table, really, to be
No.
honest. But yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great that it's there.
Yeah, it's incredible. 5 out of 6 results. You're like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
The same amount of time your cannon's destroyed, but there's no sort of I shoot this turn 1, I don't get to shoot it again until turn 3 because I misfire.
Yeah.
Or maybe there is, but you get the shot off anyway. So it's I'd rather have the shot
You're
this
still
turn
only
instead of next
missing.
turn.
Yeah, you're still only
Yeah.
missing 1 turn of shooting for every misfire at worst. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Still levies, so no risk of it causing panic. Not that it's a high enough unit strength to do that realistically.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a pretty honest unit. It's a cannon, and you can take it in Bretonnians. Hard to argue with.
What is not to love?
Yeah. Perfect. So that is us doing all of the units there in order. Don't worry about it. We definitely didn't get them in the wrong order. So there's not much left to go through, but we do have some magic items and we've got some virtues. And we obviously have touched on these throughout the video. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with virtues or do you want to start with magic items?
We're at magic weapons. We'll start with magic weapons and magic items.
Yeah. So obviously there's all of the great ones in the core rulebook. So do you know what the Ogre Blade is, the Talisman of Protection, the Lore Familiar, and if you do know what all 3 of those are, great, we don't need to talk about them. That's sort of the 3 that you might see in any army, whether it's Bretonnians or not. I don't think we necessarily...
Can't forget the Monster Slayer Sword or the Dragon Slayer Sword, whatever it's called.
I can and will and have. You can't make me remember it. 50 points for a sword that does nothing apart from have Monster Slayer on is not good, and I will go to my grave fighting that argument. Especially in this army, like, how dare you, sir?
Yeah.
You could just take.
It's not good in this army.
I don't think it's good in any army, honestly. I think, complete tangent here. The best you can get is an illusion caster that's just like, I'm gonna do loads of hits with it, and then you fail to get the cast off, or you just don't roll any 6s, or you roll low on your number of hits. You're like, darn. My caster is theoretically like 450 points because you have to have it on a delivery system as well. Otherwise it'll die or not get into the monster. It's like, oh, it didn't kill it, so it now immediately dies. I'm not about that. You can't make me do it. But back to Bretonnians. You tell me which one of these you want to talk about, because some of them are good or okay, and some of them are just completely worth skipping past.
Yeah, I think the Heartwood Lance is the one that stood out to me when I first looked through the book. I was like, oh, that's really good. The AP3 is massive. Really not a lot is AP3 in Old World. The Strength +3, really nice. I went off of it, but I am sort of coming back to it. Now I've got my Duke on a Pegasus or my Baron on Pegasus, and you can pick your charges much better. I'm sort of coming back to it. So I think that's solid. But definitely not, a super standout one.
Sure.
The Morningstar is okay in a certain build.
It's funny.
But needs a very specific. Yeah, it is. Yeah. You'd need to sort of really build the character around it. The Sword of the Quest is a funny one. I think it's not a bad weapon. Either profile's okay. The +2 strength -2 is nice. It's just the strike last that really hurts it.
Sure.
But it is way too many points for me. 70 points is absolutely crazy. I really don't know what they were thinking. Because why are you not saving 5 points and just taking the Oak Blade?
Yeah, I don't know. But you can have strikes first. I, I, if this was cheaper, I could see this on like a paladin that you're running a paladin DSP and like, I just want a 30-point magic item.
Yeah.
I'd chuck that on for 30 points. Maybe the multiple wounds too. You have to play around with, make that profile a bit worse at 30 points. But yeah, this is not it for me, especially because it requires two hands. Yeah, I would like to get pasted in combat before I get to make any attacks. Thank you for asking. Doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. And Sword of Heroes is.
Oh, hey!
No.
Dragon Slaying Sword, but more expensive.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, no
because
I'm good.
that 5-up isn't a 5-up for monster slaying. It's just a 5-up
No.
for, you get to take your 2-up save, then your 5-up ward, then your 5-up regen.
Yeah. I thought it was
Perfect.
the 5-up triggered Monster Slayer when I first read it, and I was like, oh, that's quite. Oh, no, it isn't. Oh, okay.
I'd put that on a lady, on a Pegasus with
Yeah.
Law of Illusion and, whatever, Law Familiar. God, I've just forgotten all my words. And then be spectacularly disappointed when it didn't work. But I'd do it. Like, that's spicy enough that I'd be like, you know what? Let's give it a go. Let's just see. And then be really sad. But, yeah, that's 60 points. It's only 10 points more than the Monster Slaying Sword, but the Monster Slayer Sword is bad at 50 points. So, that's that. And we can go to the next page.
Yes.
Now, here are some items that I actually do like, because magic weapons are typically not something you see. You see Ogre Blade, and that's about it. But we have some real hitters on this page. So let's start off with the magic armor.
Yeah, so this is the Gilded Cuirass. The first one is one that a lot of armies sort of have access to.
Yeah. You've. Hey, you're back. Oh, you're gone. Speaker left. Speaker connected. Speaker left. Perfect.
Right. Hopefully it's stabilised itself. I don't know what that was all about.
No worries. Fortunately, it was at the start of you talking about the Gilded Cuirass, so take it away.
Yes. Yeah, so the first one, Gilded Cuirass. A lot of armies have access to this sort of armour. Some sort of armour gives you a bit of an extra save, and then it gives you regen. Unfortunately, this one's way too expensive. Like 60 points for not improving anyone's armour that can take it. Just give you regen 5+.
Yeah, so you could have...
And it takes up your magic armour slot, which can have some quite nice stuff in it.
Yeah, instead you could take the Trollhide trousers, which are extremely common, cost 20 points less, give you +1 save and a 5-up regen, and some of their armies boost regen saves.
Wild, just blows my mind. I don't know why you'd ever take it. I really don't. You're just paying 60 points for regen 5+.
This would be
no other benefit.
This would be the perfect place to have the one bit of full plate in the army.
Yes.
If it just said Gilded Cuirass is a suit of full plate, in addition it gets a 5-up ward, I'd be like, that's still steep, but I am going to take it.
But there's a use for it. There's a place for it. But yeah, heavy armor, no, definitely not. The second one, on the other hand, I do very much like. So this basically just improves your armor by 1 and then lets you reroll 1s when you make an armor save. It's frustratingly just too many points to take with the Ogre Blade. But it's very good, the Gromwell Great Helm. It makes it gives you that 2-up armor save, which is very hard to get in Bretonnian armies these days. I think there's only two ways of getting it. I
Oh.
think Bedazzling Helm.
Oh, yes, of course, because you can still get that on
From the main
cavalry.
rule book. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they're the only two. I don't think there's any in the journal that are like that just add to your armor. So yeah, big fan of it. Just wish it was 35 points, just so I could fit it with the Ogre Blade.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the same problem that you get with the aforementioned Trollhide trousers. And with the Trollhide trousers, you probably go for those over the Ogre Blade, whereas in this case, you might actually go for this over the Ogre Blade, because... sorry, the Ogre Blade over this, the other way around, because this is just not quite as good. But I really do like it when you're taking a character that can't take a magic weapon, because they've got a vow that says you've only got to, normal weapons, lances, and that sort of shenanigans. So,
yeah, very good on him.
Onto another great piece here, the Mantle of the Damsel Elena. 25 points. The bearer is immune to poisoned attack special rule.
It's all right.
It's an item that's in the book that you can legally take.
Yes.
So and you don't need to take a Talisman of Protection. So yeah, why not? Why not? 25 points.
You
couldn't possibly get anything good for 25 points in this army.
No, never. No, certainly
so
not
the next one,
the talisman slot.
Yeah, so there's a Syrian's Locket that's also 25 points. Okay, so it's only infantry and cavalry, so that's only the good things in the book. Okay.
Yeah.
Immune to multiple wounds, and they only take a single wound from multiple wounds. That's interesting.
That's incredible for 25 points. Yeah. with how popular the Ogre Blade is.
Yes.
To just go, no. Yeah. Absolutely not. You're not having, 2/3 of what your weapon does. No, just turn that off. That for 25 points, really, really good. Yeah. It means your Duke with the Ogre Blade can go into their Duke with the Ogre Blade and have very good odds of surviving it if they've not also got Syrian's Locket.
Yes, or if you go into, like a Chaos Lord, they're only going to kill you over 2 turns instead of over 1 turn, so it makes a big difference there. Really nice. Then we've got a couple of magic standards. Obviously, we haven't got the Arcane Journal ones, we'll get to those in a second, but starting off with the Valorous Standard, for 60 points, you get to roll 3d6 when making a break test and discarding the highest. If you lose combat, which is the thing that will lose you the game, you get to lose combat less.
Yeah, way too many points. Well,
I wouldn't.
Too many points, but
I wouldn't take this in this army for any points, I think.
It could be good on a peasant unit, or in a peasant unit.
Yeah.
But it could be good in a yeoman guard unit if it was cheap enough. But
yeah, that's a fair point actually. Your melee brick, that's the one sort of place. But it's okay because
it's just a waste of points.
You're not going to roll on the yeoman guard anyway because you've got some combination of stubborn and shield wall and just like never mind. Conqueror's Tapestry, 40 points. Any enemy standard captured by this unit is worth 100 victory points as a trophy of war. This is something that if you're not playing the Exiles, you might want to put on that big brick of Pegasus Knights, because they're going to kill a lot of things.
Yeah, this is a funny one, because I'd look at it and I think, I feel like that's maybe too many points. But then you think about it and go, actually, they've only got to capture 1 banner, and it's made its points back plus 10.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think, like you say, Pegasus Knights were a really good option for this. I think they're probably, maybe Grail Knights, maybe, but they're probably the only place you'd see it, because I don't think it's worth putting on a BSB. Maybe, but Pegasus Knights,
if you wanted...
they're definitely the best option for it, I think.
If you want to Vanguard forwards and also get more value, because you're theoretically killing something turn 1, then turn 2, then turn 3, you could BSB and Vanguard. But yeah, no, I agree. I think this is one that I look at and then probably cut it if I'm short on points.
Yeah.
Errantry Banner, 30 points, plus 1 strength on turn it charged, but they also get the Impetuous special rule. That's honestly not bad. I know impetuosity is a real downside, but as you were saying, there's limited ways to get plus 1 strength. I think I quite like this.
I would love this if it was 25 points.
That's a very fair point. It needs to go on a BSB or a unit that probably doesn't need the strength.
Yeah, exactly. And And so realistically, this can only go on, like, if you're not taking it on your BSB, it's only going on Questing Knights, which you don't take anyway. Pegasus Knights, which really don't want Impetuous because they can see everything. Or Grail Knights, which don't really want Impetuous and don't need the strength.
I
I
think
think you want this on Knights of the Realm.
Yeah, I think my use case for this is in an Errantry Crusade list where everything's got Impetuosity anyway, and you're just like, cool, one of my units going to hit a bit harder.
Yeah. I think that's the only time I take it. When it's weird because you always used to see this banner in 8th edition, which was the Bretonnian 6th edition book. It was cheap enough that you could put it on Knights Errant, but it made their sort of equivalent of Impetuous test harder for them.
Yeah.
So I think if they'd have sort of kept it like that, which is quite fluffy, you'd have actually then seen some Knights Errant because you could have buffed them in that way. Almost even just make it Knights Errant only. That would have been quite cool, I think. Just to then, they do hit a strength 6, but they're like super likely to go off and charge. Maybe make it like a 1 to 4 they have to charge rather.
Or even just if you have this, if you put
strength.
this on a unit with Impetuosity, they always have to charge.
Yeah.
Screw it. I'd still take it at 25 points.
Yeah, I think that would have been cool. But at the moment you just don't see it because it basically has to go on a BSB.
Yeah, that's fair. And then one that we do really like, the Banner of Chalons. You cannot stand and shoot against this unit.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, solid. There's not many units that you're too concerned about their stand and shoot reaction, but for something like Grail Knights, who you don't have a lot of models, and a couple of bad saves can really make a difference, I think this is not a bad shout. Maybe for Pegasus Knights potentially as well.
I really like it on Peg Knights, especially if you're going, say, 2 or 3 smaller units. You go one that turns off stand and shoot, one that gives them hatred against shooting units, and you just go, I'm in your back lines. I'm just going to cleave through everything there. You are going to really struggle to deal with me. I think I really like this banner. I think if I've got a unit that has a standard and doesn't have a magic banner in mind, I'm putting this on it up until I need to shave some points. I think that's where it falls for me.
Yeah, I think it is one of the first things you drop. But if you can find the points for it, it's a very nice banner and pretty cheap.
Cool. So then moving on to enchanted items, there's the Falcon Horde of Friedmund. Is this any good?
I haven't really looked at what it does, to be honest. Not really looked through it. Don't see it all too often.
So it's got some flavor text. That's probably the important part. Joking aside, this is going in every one of your lists. Just start 40 points down because you're putting it on.
It's going on someone.
Yeah, so this is actually an argument in favour of Grail Knights, which I hadn't really considered, in that obviously you can put it on them, but if you want to spend all 1,000 points of your heroes, your characters, which then makes it hard to fit in Grail Knights on top of the Pegasus Knights. But if you want that extra 40 points, you can put it on Grail Knights very comfortably with their Leadership 9, which is just solid.
And it's on the Grail Knights have got the better leadership than a Paladin or a level 4 Wizard, which is often where you see this. Some people put it on a Baron. If they have a Baron and a Duke, they find the space for it on the Baron. But most of the time it's on a Paladin or a level 4. I always take it on my Grail Knight champion, personally.
Yeah. Just to quickly tell you what it does, because we've skipped that in favour of being like, oh, is it good? In your command phase, if you're not in combat, take a leadership test on your leadership, so no general leadership. If passed until the next start of turn subphase, enemy units cannot use the fly special rule. This is backbreaking for some armies. This is so punishing.
So good.
Yeah, it's really, especially if you're playing in a mirror. Like, oh, you've got loads of Peg Knights. Sure. Well, they're just 7-inch moving skirmish cavalry, which is still pretty good, but it's not as good as mine. It gets exponentially better if you take it in Errantry Crusade or Exiles, because you get veteran on all your models, so then you're re-rolling the leadership. It's just super good. When it doesn't go off, you feel it. That's like baseline. Your army doesn't care about flyers. Your opponent just doesn't get to fly against you, and then sometimes that goes wrong. That's how this works, basically. Perfect. So we're on to the Antlers of the Great Hunt. Aforementioned 25 points gives the unit move through cover. This is nice. Don't like losing models, to dangerous terrain.
Yeah, like I say, I take this quite often on my Knight of the Realm champion. Fits on him quite nicely.
that makes sense. And it's also cheap enough that it doesn't feel like it's bulking up the unit's cost all that much.
Yeah, yeah.
5-point Gauntlet of the Jewel. Challenges issued by the bearer cannot be refused. At the start of the edition, I saw pretty much every Bretonnian player using it. Is it still something that's worth slipping in if you've got 5 points?
I mean, there's not really a downside to having it.
Yeah.
It doesn't force you to issue a challenge.
Sure.
So there's no real downside, but I don't really see people refusing challenges all that much. Most of the time, people want your character in a challenge with their champion.
Yeah.
So, you know, you saying, "Oh, you can't refuse this challenge," doesn't really do anything. They're like, "Yeah, well, I was going to accept it anyway."
Yeah,
it's not like you choose to accept it, which
it feels like a very narrow slice of pie where you're going, actually, I want to challenge you, and you don't want to be challenged, so you're going to refuse, but you don't get to refuse.
Yeah.
If you've killed the champion previously and they have a character, that's about it, which feels
niche.
Difficult. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Cool. All right, on to the arcane items. Obviously, these are for your casters only. Silver Mirror, 35 points. You can use it when you're attempting a wizardly dispel. Roll an extra d6. Discard the lowest. If a double 1 is rolled, you are outclassed in the arts. That's out of any of the 3 dice. So basically, a dispel scroll. But if it's successful, you dispel the spell, and also they take a strength 4 hit at AP2. Sure.
It's not bad. I mean, Strength 4 AP2 is probably going to be enough to wound most wizards.
Yeah. 50-50 a lot of the time. T4 on a lot of wizards.
Yeah. So it's not bad, and it's not super expensive.
No, but how often have you taken the Dispel Scroll?
I went through a phase of taking like 3 on my level 4 and then realised I never used them. So because I just forgot I had them.
And then the Arcane Journal came out and you were like, maybe I just take Lady Elise de Shard.
Yeah.
Because she does that, but way better.
Yeah. So no, I've not. I can't say I've taken this so far.
Yeah. I like Power Scrolls. I'm kind of out on Dispel Scrolls, I think. If I'm looking for a Dispel bonus, I think I'd rather have... Outside of, like, if I'm playing the Pegasus Brick, you do want a level 4 in there with some sort of, like, ability to up your Dispel roll. Because you want to turn off Masmic Mirage or Column of Crystal. I think I'd rather just have Magic Resist on the unit, to be honest, and like a normal Dispel. But something to play around with maybe. Sacrament of the Lady, 30 points. Again, single use. I don't love those. Use it once per game, +2 to your casting roll, and you declare it before you roll the spell. This is a power scroll, but better, I think. You're not as likely to miscast.
Yeah.
You know you're consistently getting +2. It's fine.
Yeah, not bad for those spells that you absolutely feel must get off. But for 30
how many of those do you have?
Single use, 30 points in single use. Feel like it's a bit too much.
Yeah, I haven't taken this. What I do like is the Prayer Icon of Quenelles. 25 points, increase their dispel range by 3, and you get +1 to dispel hexes. This is how you shut down the Miasmic Mirage.
Yes.
Just really solid.
Yeah, anything that increases your dispel range, I'm convinced, anything that does that is a very good item.
Yeah, 100%.
There are very few that increase your dispel range and feel like they're too expensive for what else they do. This one is very, very good. Because most of the time, magic missiles, you've got a good or okay arm save and then an alright ward save. You can get regen from a spell to put on a unit you're really concerned about taking loads of hits from magic missiles. So it is hexes like Miasmic Mirage and things like that, or stuff that drops your stats, like I think it's Word Pain from the Dark Elves. Anything like that, this is a really good little bonus too. And you can often dispel from outside of their dispel range, so you can stay out and cast your own spells reasonably safe from their dispels, which is nice as well.
Yeah, and it's also nice because if your opponent's casting like a 24-inch range spell, like a Fireball, and you're in the unit you want to protect, they can get a little bit tricksy because you're not going to be at the front of the unit realistically. So if you're just in the middle of the unit, you pretty much covered the entire unit with your Dispel Aura, which is really nice to have as well.
Yeah, that's very true.
Perfect. I think that is the end. Yes, that is the end there. So before we go over to the virtues, we'll have a quick look at the magic items in the Arcane Journal. Now,
Mhm.
Bretonnian's one of the earlier books, and the earlier books tend to be split into you can take them in one of the detachments, one of
Yes.
the Arcane
One of
Journal
the armies meant
armies,
to me, yeah.
which is, I think I prefer it that way instead of just something coming along and being like, oh, this is so good, it's going to be in every Bretonnian army. So
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
not opposed
there's
to
a
that.
few that you can take in any army, but I think it's a good
Yeah.
balance that they've gone for in the earlier journals, like you say, rather than the more recent ones where most of it is just you can take it in any list.
Yeah, so for me, the one that would go into every Bretonnian army is locked to exiles, and it is the Frontier Axe.
Yeah.
It's an ogre blade, but I don't want to say better. It's better in some ways. I like multiple wounds 2 instead of
Hmm.
D3. You're less likely to get screwed over on averages. I'm very much
Yeah.
like a player who works on averages. I don't want to just swing for the fences, because then that
Yeah.
also means you're likely to just get, you're as likely to roll low as you are to roll high.
Yeah.
The AP3 is really nice. You just got that armor
Yeah.
bane baked in all of the times.
Yeah.
It does require 2 hands, but it's 30 points instead of 65.
30 points is crazy.
Yeah,
Less than half the points. You can comfortably, if you want, combine this with. Well, you could go Dazzling Helm, actually. I think it's 65.
true.
So you could combine it with that, or you could go Gromwell Great Helm for the reroll ones on your armor saves to get you back to that 3-up save.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really like this Frontier Axe. Just wish it wasn't limited to exiles.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
like you say, it'd be in every single Bretonnian list.
Yeah, I'm glad it's exiles only, because I think that adds to one of the reasons that you would take it as an army, because it's so
Yeah.
powerful. That makes you go,
Mm.
actually, I think I do want to go for this, because it lets me go. I don't think you do. You could go for the Frontier Axe and the Ogre Blade in one
Mm.
list. Like, you theoretically
Yeah.
can go for 2 big slappers.
Yeah.
I think it's not super efficient to do that compared to just taking the Lance Killing Blow character who gets,
Mm.
solid attacks. But yeah, it's good. I like it. Crusader's Lance, this is something that's worth looking at as well, because it gives you hatred all enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Reason that you don't necessarily care about that is you've got a vow that gives you extra attacks and hatred all enemies.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's not bad. It's quite expensive, I think, when you compare it to that the Virtue of Knightly Temper, which,
yeah,
like you say, gives you that hatred only on the charge,
yeah,
that hatred and extra attacks D3. This gives you 1 extra attack from Furious
mm,
Charge, um, and it's, I think, the same points. It might be 5 points cheaper than the Virtue, but it's otherwise it's just a lance with a little bit of extra armor bane.
yeah,
So yeah, and actually, to be fair, just looking at it, you still only get the hatred on turns in which you charge anyway, because you can only use the lance in the turns in which you charge.
yeah. And then
So
hatred's
it's
also
no
first round of combat
non-existent, the
anyway.
vow for. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Multiple
So yeah,
reasons to go to get hatred turn 1.
yes, yeah, too expensive, I think, when considering you've got the virtue that gives you D3 extra attacks and hatred all enemies, which you could, if you wanted, just use with a normal lance, or what most people do, combine it with another magic weapon that increases your output even more,
Ogre Blade.
like the Ogre Blade. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then there's 2 more attacks here, which are not even worth talking about.
Nope.
So I'm not going to like them. Magic Armor. These ones are fine. The Anointed Armor, 45 points, gives you immune to Killing Blow and multiple wounds,
Mm.
which is quite nice. So that's obviously a
Yeah.
step up over Syrian's Locket.
Mm-hmm.
It's not locked to any of the detachments. It is
Nope.
locked to Grail Vower only.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't hate
yeah,
it though. Don't hate that.
45 points. It's pretty okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. It doesn't boost your armor in any way. It's just a suit of heavy armor, but immunity to both killing blow and multiple wounds, very nice. Big
I
fan.
think if Syrian's Locket didn't exist, this would be better. As it is,
Mm,
I'm just going to not worry about Killing Blow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think killing blow. There's enough killing blow out there to necessarily always warrant that extra 20 points.
And if people are techie in Killing Blow, it's probably Monster Slayer over Killing Blow, because
Yeah,
that's the thing that typically you're worried about, and you want to go, oh, I get rid of 9 wounds instead of 1, as opposed to I
yeah,
get rid of a Duke who's got, a moderate amount of wounds.
yes,
Iron Spike Shield, Army of Infantry, Exiles Army of Infantry. Infamy, only God, words are hard. If you are attacked and your opponent rolls 1s to hit or wound, they take strength 3 hits at AP 1. Neato.
Yep.
Cool.
Sure.
Yep, because the things that you're going to be in combat with a model with this shield definitely care.
Yeah. I think we can probably move on from that one.
Hold on. Can you put this on a sergeant? No, because you would attack the unit. You can't even put it on a unit champion and be like, oh, but you're attacking the unit, because they'd have to specifically direct their attacks against them. All right, yeah, no, definitely moving on. Talismans, Grail Pendant. Single use only, models with Grail Vow only. On a 2+, you don't lose your last wound, basically. This is 40 points.
Yeah.
Nah.
It's a nice ability, but it's too many points.
I haven't seen anyone take it in any of the other armies that can take it when it's cheaper. Looking at you, Vampire Counts, I can't even remember how much it is. It's like Manfred's or the Von Karstein Ring or something like that, and I think it's like 25 points-ish, and I still don't see people take it.
Yeah, fair.
Lucky Heirloom. Exiles, again. Once per round, you can reroll a single failed roll to hit, wound, or a single failed armor save or ward save. It is extremely common, so if you wanted, you could take 3 of them and just reroll 3 1s a turn. That's a thing you could do. I don't mind 1 for 25 points.
Yeah, I don't mind 1. It's not sort of single use either, so it is literally every single round you get this, which is nice. I don't think I wouldn't go all 3, because you're really giving up sort of
good
output.
items.
Yeah, basically, you're giving up too much, I think, to get an extra couple of rerolls. But I think 1's not bad.
You could go the Killing Blow Baron with 3 of these in Syrian's Locket and just be like, you do not want to come near me, Mr. Monster. Like, dragons, beware.
Barons only get 75 points, don't they? So they can only have
Duke.
2 of these in Syrian's Locket.
I always get the Duke and the Baron mixed up. The one with 100 points.
Can't have a Duke in an Exiles army.
Well, you won't use this then.
You could have a Baron with 2 of them in Syrian's Locket.
Yeah, that's because you can't go for the full meme potential. I'm a lot less excited about that. Maybe let's just move on. We've got some magic banners. The standard, the Banner of the Lady's Grace, 75 points. Ignore all negative modifiers to leadership. So this is to beat specifically the Scream list for Vampire Counts. Since you don't know how many times you're going to be playing against Screams, this is not something I would recommend taking.
No. A couple of armies have this. Chaos have basically the same banner for very similar points cost. And I just think it's not worth it in any of the armies that can take it, to be honest. Nope. Like you say, it's very much built to be an anti-Scream item.
Yeah.
There's really not a lot else that super affects your leadership in a way that is going to be meaningful.
Tomb Kings can do like a leadership bomb list with the catapults and their necromancy, but like that's not as common. The amount of Scream lists for Vampire Counts has definitely dropped from the start of the edition. Yeah, I'm whelmed. It's too much.
If you are playing someone who always brings a Scream list and you want them to stop bringing a Scream list, bring this banner once and they will not bring the Scream list.
Well, yeah, there is that. Normally I do say don't Taylor, but I guess in that case it's the lesser of 2 evils. So, Crusader's Tapestry, Errantry Crusade only. You get Frenzy. I like this. I really like this.
You've got Impetuous anyway, so lean into it, you know?
I think I like with Frenzy, I like it on the worst unit. You can put it on the better. So they're cheaper, so you care about them less. But also, if you're going like from 1 attack with the Knights Errant to 2, you're doubling their output. If you're going from 2 to 3 with Grail Knights, or God, if you put this on Peg Knights, you know, going from 2 to 3, that's only a 50% increase. Their attacks are better, but downside is it's 40 points, and that means you have to put it on either a good unit or on a BSB. That probably kills it for me. But Zealous Knight, 25 points.
No, I know what this banner does.
Best banner in the game?
This is your Pegasus banner in your Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's your
If for some
Pegasus
reason
banner
you
in an
don't want to,
Exiles army.
yeah, if for some reason you don't want to play Pegasus Knights, put it on any of your other knights. Just have a unit go
Yeah,
forwards.
yeah. It's not bad on any
Yeah.
of the other knights. It's just really at its best on Pegasus Knights.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. There's the
No.
banner of the of honourable warfare, 25 points. Reroll any failed rolls to hit in the first round of combat engaged with an enemy equipped with missile weapons. So
Yeah,
gains hatred brackets missile weapon units.
yeah.
So,
This is super wordy just because they couldn't work out what to put in the brackets when they put hatred.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I like this. I like this banner on my Pegasus Knights. I think it's not bad on any knight unit, really, to be honest. If you've got the points for it, but I do often find myself dropping the odd musician or champion around to try and squeeze this onto my Pegasus Knights, just because they're so maneuverable. They can really pick their battles much better, so you can make sure they actually get some use out of it.
yeah. Even Knights of the Realm with this, I'm quite excited by,
Yeah.
because that's something that if your opponent's trying to frontline with a unit of Iron Drakes, for example, you can just say,
Mm-hmm.
no, absolutely not. But
Yeah,
yeah,
or Dwarf Rangers who have sort of
yeah,
scouted up and been really annoying, gyrocopters, anything like that.
the entire dwarf army, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Great stuff. So that is the extent of the magic items, I believe. I'm telling you lies, there's more.
There's a whole other page.
There's a whole other page. Enchanted items. Seal of Paravan, 35 points. You always hit on a 3+. The thing that you're putting this on is probably going to hit on a 3+ anyway.
Yeah, that's its issue, really. It's not bad. It's probably not even too many points, but you're probably already hitting on a 3.
You could put this on again, just to like belabor the point, the Killing Blow Baron/Duke, but the Syrian's Locket is a talisman, so yeah, you could do this. Yeah, if you wanted, you could make sure that you're hitting that Chaos Lord on 3s.
Yeah. Yeah, not bad for that.
Yeah, but you're going to be rerolling your 6s to hit, and strikes last anyway, so you're probably dead, so don't worry about that one. Crusader's Clarion, 25 points. Errantry Crusade, only +1 to strength. Oh, another +1 strength, and this one doesn't give you Impetuous.
No, but it's just +1 strength to their mounts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not the actual knight.
Peg Knights. Oh, no, War Horses only.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Worm Breath Vial. This is a bad rule. You don't want single-use breath weapons.
No.
Bretonnian Exiles only breath weapon. Strength 4, AP1, flamey attacks, magical attacks, breath weapon.
Yeah, it's not a particularly spectacular breath weapon. It's single use. You can't march and blow a breath weapon.
So here's the thing.
Very underwhelming.
And I was talking to one of the playtesters, and they were like, yeah, no, breath weapons are great because you can march and shoot them because they're not a shooting attack. I was like, okay, cool. Put that in NFAQ because otherwise that doesn't count. You telling me, as we're stood next to each other playing a game of Warhammer, is not an official rules update. So,
but I'm sure it was in their first FAQ from GW that said you cannot march and shoot a breath weapon.
Maybe he might just be wrong.
So there's some disconnect somewhere.
Official member of Games Workshop staff, also a playtester, just like, yeah, no, you can definitely do this. Probably wrong. I was about to apologise to him by name, but I won't do that. That'd be rude.
Maybe not.
On the internet. Heart of the Wild, we're into the arcane items for your casters again, which is like super less exciting when we're looking at the 2 arcane journals. But Heart of the Wild, this is for anyone, and this is genuinely quite a good item. +1 to cast if they're within natural terrain. So for most games that you play, that's going to be if you're in a wood. And then it's just a lot of text saying you kind of need to talk to your opponent what this means.
Yeah.
I love it when hard and fast rules are like, hey, just have an agreement with your opponent.
Agree. Yeah.
So I play pretty much exclusively on the square-based maps, which means there is 2 woods on every map, pretty much. So that's solid. I like it. +1 to cast. It does limit you a little bit. It's not as good as the Broken Stave for Wood Elves, but it's aggressively okay. Diadem of Power. This is errantry only, but vortices, magic missiles, and assailments are all cast at +1. This is very nice.
Yeah, I really like this.
Shame it can't go on Exiles, because that would be really nice if you could put it on the Outcast Wizards. Get a lot of 4s.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But, an elementalism caster,
Yeah.
or battle magic caster, I think, with this. And then you've always got the option for, and I can't remember the spell, Lady's Wrath, I think it is.
Yeah, the Burning Gaze
Burning
style.
Gaze, that's it. Yeah. That's just like a line that you draw out from the caster. You've always got that, so you can guarantee you've got at least one of those.
Yeah, I think
Signature is an assailant, I think.
For me, it goes on a battle magic caster, because if you're going elementalism, or illusion, you need a lore familiar. You need to be picking those spells.
Yeah.
There's enough good stuff in battle magic that I'm pretty okay just going, I'll roll 4 dice and then pick what I want my model to do. Sometimes you don't get Fireball or Pillar of Flame, and you're like, I'm paying a lot for nothing. But that battle magic caster can go in a unit to give them a 5-up ward, arcane urgency to move again. You know, you can be really flexible with it. So, like on a second caster where you've already used lore familiar, I like this, which probably means it doesn't make it in for Bretonnians.
Yeah, yeah.
And then 15 points, Flame Strike Ward. Exiles only, single use. You may cast Fireball as a bound spell with power level 3. No notes. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. It's probably cheap enough that you can get over it being a single-use spell. That's something I really dislike, because you're potentially paying points for absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
If you fail to cast it, if it then gets dispelled, you know, there's a couple of ways there that it just doesn't do anything. But it's probably cheap enough you can get away with it.
Yeah, this is definitely like a playstyle dependent choice. I like overwhelming my opponent with like maximum force in a small area, and just going, this, like, the entire plan is crush this aspect of their army and then move on. And it's really nice for that, because it lets you just bring an extra Fireball, which is solid. Bound level 3 is quite nice as well.
Yeah, I think I really would have preferred this if it was like not an arcane item. Like if it was enchanted or something.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just so I could take it with an arcane item. Because I think losing the arcane slot is quite big for this.
I thought you were going to do the classic Warhammer player thing of I'd like this if it was better in some way. Yeah. But I think it's really fair to say if it wasn't in the arcane item slot.
Yeah.
I think
if it said only prophetesses or damsels or, you know, wizards can take it still, that's fine. Just not in the arcane slot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, you're right. I'd love this on just like a cheap character, because typically my Ruby Ring holder is a cheap character as well. The problem is you can only use one bound item a turn per character, so or if you could put this on a unit champion, that'd be quite nice as well. But you can't do any of those, so we'll have to move on, unfortunately. Knightly Virtues. This is the last part of this absolute blockbuster. We'll start off with the best one, and we'll go to the second best one, and then we'll just kind of skim because there's not much else. Virtue of Knightly Temper. We've talked about this many times. During a turn in which it charged, a model with this virtue gains plus D3 extra attacks and hatred all enemies.
So good. Just phenomenally good. Yeah. This, for me, goes on your Ogre Blade Duke, or Baron, but probably Duke. Makes him an absolute machine. Between 6 and 8 attacks, rerolls to hit against everyone, probably wounded on a 3 most of the time at worst, maybe a 4 or at worst really a 5 if it's a proper sort of tooled up dragon. But yeah, really good with the extra attacks, the multiple wounds from the Ogre Blade, just combos really well. An expensive combo, but worth it, I think.
Yeah. A Duke's strength 5 natively, isn't he? So you're probably wounding most things in the game on 2s. And if you're going into that dragon, then probably 3s. So yeah, really solid, really nice upgrade here. Doesn't eat into your magic item slot. And you're much cheaper than a dragon character because you're not on a dragon. So that works out quite nicely. Then the other one that you might take, the Virtue of Heroism, 60 points. This is, unless using a magic weapon, you gain Killing Blow and Monster Slayer. And this is about the only time that I'm like, I quite like that version of Killing Blow and Monster Slayer. Yes, please.
Yeah, the fact it gives you both is a big plus. I think if this was just Monster Slayer for 60 points, you probably wouldn't see it anywhere near as much as you do, because it's nowhere near as versatile. Basically, the only thing in the game you don't just kill on a 6 is a chariot. Which, you know, you can...
War machines.
Yeah.
You're going to run through them anyway, so like
you probably don't need to, But yeah, you can keep this guy relatively cheap. The virtue is not cheap in itself at 60 points, but you just give the guy a lance, put him on
Yeah.
a Royal Pegasus, give him a shield, he's done.
If Monster Slayer Sword was also +2 strength and +2 AP,
Mm.
I'd be on board. Like,
Yeah,
you don't even need to give me
yeah,
the Armor Bane one, but the
yeah.
fact that you can combo it with any non-magical weapon makes it, in my eyes, a very strong pick.
Yeah, and I think you've got to, or not got to, but I think I always would, just because if you do come up against regular infantry where your killing blow basically does nothing apart from ignore their armor, you want all of your attacks, or as many of them as you can, to actually do something, and that's what the lance gives you the turn you charge.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Next up, we've got Virtue of the Ideal, 45 points. This is a very budget Virtue of Knightly Temper. If you
Yes.
want a second killing character, but you don't want the killing blow, if you want to go a Frontier Axe character and also an Ogre Blade character, this is, I think, a legitimate way you can build. Gives you
Yeah.
+1 weapon skill, initiative, attacks, and leadership. Can't be your units, your army's general, or join a friendly unit. Both of those are kind of fine.
Yeah, not the biggest downsides.
No.
Because if it's on a Baron or a Paladin, you've probably got a Duke. So
Yeah.
he's very likely going to be your general anyway.
Yeah.
Chuck him on a Pegasus, so he's not too worried about not being able to join friendly units. And then, yeah, you've got another super sort of, or reasonably killy combat character, particularly with something like the Frontiers Axe.
I think this is the one I give the Frontier Axe for sure, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe the Crusader Lance. Maybe this is the virtue for that guy.
Crusader's Lance was +3 strength, +3 AP. Any other
No,
magic
it was
rules?
regular lance, +2 strength, plus and -2 AP, but furious charge and hatred, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So 120... No, 105 points. And it gives you +2 attacks, plus... Okay, yeah. That's... I don't hate that, actually. That's an interesting little combo. And it means that you could theoretically take 2 beta characters without having to take exiles, which does have its own downside, especially if you're a solo character where you really need to lean on that ward save for cannonballs.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's interesting. I like that idea, actually. Maybe I'll play around with it. Cool. So then we've got the Virtue of the Impetuous Knight. You gain Impetuous, and you get +3 to your charge roll and an additional D3 to your charge range. Cool. Shame it doesn't give it to the unit. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd rather just be in combat 1 turn later, but I kill you when I get there.
Yeah.
It's probably it for me. Virtue of Audacity. Reroll hit rolls against an enemy model with higher weapon skill than it. Shame that you're quite a good weapon skill to start off with, because that's already paying points that are conditional. And there are 2 ways to get hatred that we've just talked about.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Not a bad virtue in itself, but like you say, not worth it on really anything that can take it, bar maybe a Paladin.
Yeah. Virtue of Purity, 5 up ward, even if you didn't pray at the start of the game. It says always benefits, so you can fall back, you can flee, you can decline to challenge, you can lose combat and still have it. Maybe you take this in exiles, but if you're taking exiles, I think it's because you really want to lean on the damage aspect of the game, so just do that.
Yeah. You do always also get a 5 up ward from the Blessing, so
True.
there is that.
Yeah.
But it does cost the same amount of points as a Talisman of Protection. Doesn't come out your magic item slot, so there is that.
I'd rather take a better virtue and then just skimp on the magic items, I think. Because there's cheap, good stuff in the Bretonnian magic item list. But yeah, it's there if you, for some reason, wanted to go 2 characters with a 5 up ward to start off with.
Yeah.
What else have we got? You get Virtue of Duty, +1 combat res. You can't join a friendly unit. Never mind. Dead.
Yeah, that just ruins that.
Put this on a BSB with War Banners, +3 static combat res. That's no, never mind.
Yeah. I think everyone did that in their mind and went, "Oh, this will be great," and then went, "And I can't join a friendly unit." Well, that's that.
Yeah. Virtue of the Joust, 20 points. Reroll failed wound rolls when making a lance. When using a lance, this is fine. Grail Knight character, maybe.
Not bad on a Grail Knight champion.
Yeah. You can't take Demonology, unfortunately. I guess you could with the Exiles Outcast Wizard. Because where I want this on a champion, I want it comboed with plus extra attacks or a Frenzy Banner. Maybe there's something here, But
yeah, so you could go this on a champion in the errantry list with the Crusaders banner, or whatever it was called, that gave you
yeah,
frenzy, to really sort of make the most out of it. Yeah.
yeah, that is a thing that you could do. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. And I think isn't it only Grail Knights that can take virtues? You can't put them on Peg Knights.
You can't put them on Pegasus. It's Growls and Questing Knights.
So it's just Grail Knights that can take them.
That can use this, yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
Um,
it's just Grail Knights that are ever going to take them.
cool. Don't know that I love giving them frenzy. That feels like it might be a little risky. So then we've got rerolls to hit from Virtue of Confidence, 15 points to issue and accept challenges if possible, but you reroll failed hit rolls. That's not awful.
Yeah.
Because, so it doesn't make it into my list, but
Mm.
it's 15 points for hatred on every turn, and you're probably putting that on a character that doesn't have a lance. You have like Ogre Blade or something. Obviously, there's better thing. Honestly, if you like need to shave 50 points for some reason, you want to drop the Virtue of Knightly Temper, don't do it. But if it's the only way you can get a third character in, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's there. Anything else? Virtue of Noble Disdain, reroll hatred against missile weapons. Again, second source of it, that's fine. Virtue of Discipline gives you basically drilled, but not the good part of drilled.
Yeah.
And then Virtue of Empathy, which is you can join a unit of peasants.
You can
for
pay
5 points
to join a unit of peasants.
And that is something that you actually might do.
Maybe.
If you want a BSB in a big brick of men-at-arms or
Yeah.
yeomen-at-arms, that's sort of like the use case for this, I think.
Yeah. Although you won't have to do it for the Yeoman Guard because you are in an Exiles list and you have the Exiles fan, which means you can just join them anyway. So it's literally just like Grand Army joining men-at-arms. If you really want to do that, sure.
Yep, that's a thing that you can do. Cool. All right. Well, we've got to the end there. We are fully through the Bretonnians. God, there was a lot of rules there. But
yes.
How are you feeling about that one? How are you feeling about the army overall?
I really like them. I'm really enjoying using them still. I've been using them pretty solidly for, 7 months-ish now. And yeah, I've sort of flitted in and out, had a couple of games with other armies, but always come back to the Brets. Taken them to 4 or 5 events now, and just really enjoyed them at every event. Got lots of ideas for what I want to get painted up, for some new models, extra Pegasus Knights, some more Knights of the Realm, some more Peasants, just to give me some more options, and start using the Infamy lists, particularly the Exiles. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Get some Bombards built up and painted and go sort of with a weirdly artillery-heavy Bretonnian list, which is just not really something they could do before. So different ways to play the army I've been playing for God knows how many years now. Probably about 6-7 years. 6 or 7 years. Super looking forward to it. Getting some different ways to play them on the table and them being quite good, which is nice. They weren't all that good in 8th edition when I was using them a lot, and now they are solid. I'm not going to say they're... I'm trying to sort of link this to your tier videos. I wouldn't put them in S tier. I'd probably put them like middle of A tier though.
I'm not 100% sure where I fall on them, but I do need to work it out because there is an army tier list coming out at some point in the next couple of, I think, 3 weeks. They're arguably a top 3 army in the game. I'm not sure quite where they fall for me, but they're very, very solid. And I think even outside of the Pegasus Knights, they've got some solid stuff. So if for whatever reason we see that fall out of favour, there are other ways to go. But I think Pegasus Knights are a lot of the strength of the army. They're definitely patching it up. And I think maybe your opinion on them being like middle of A tier comes from not running 9 of them.
I
whereas I've
think
played against 9 of them.
Can't imagine that was entirely fun for you playing against.
I love it. Like coming from obviously playing like competitive 40k, I only want to play against the hardest armies to beat because I'm like, why else would I waste my time with? Yeah, absolutely. All right, perfect. Well, So Scott is going to be running a couple of events coming up next year. More information of that as we follow, and we'll probably have him back on the show to plug those tickets and make sure we can get some good attendance. Because if you're going to Old World events, why not do it with someone like Scott?
Huge thanks as always to my Grail Knight tier supporters. That is Morpheus Gaming, McHugh Knight, and most recently Creekhammer. Thank you as well to everyone else who's popping up on the screen right now. If you like what I do, you too can become a supporter of the channel, becoming a member down below. Or, if not, you can like the videos, share, watch. All of these things really have helped me grow the channel and will continue to help me expand over the next few months. There's a growing Close Order Discord linked down below. That's not a members-only Discord. There are members-only VIP areas, but it is something that you're more than welcome to join. We are starting to grow a great community there. It's quite active. Lots of great hobby going on down below as well. If you haven't subscribed, there'll be a link to subscribe on your screen over here, and there'll be another video to watch if you want to over there. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.